Successful millionaire returns home early. Discovers a heartwarming, life-changing surprise. Jake stood in front of his childhood home, the weight of his past pressing heavily on his chest. The once vibrant blue paint was now peeling and faded, like the memory of the laughter that used to echo around him. The lights flickered inside, and a hollow ache twisted in his stomach. How had he let it come to this? After years of navigating success in the tech industry, he'd become a stranger, far removed from his roots, from his mother Sarah who still ran the family diner. A place that, once bustling with life and community, now sat quietly like a forgotten dream. As he walked the cracked pavement of Maple Street, memories surged back with the bittersweet pulse of nostalgia. He could hear his old friends laughing, feel the warm sun on their backs as they chased after dreams painted in bright colors. But the streets now whispered of struggle. The local shops, once lively, had bars on the windows and "for sale" signs were everywhere. Each face he passed told a story, a silent plea for understanding. He felt an unfamiliar guilt creep in, a weight that made him long to mask it with his wealth. But there was something unsettling about it. He made his way to the diner, his childhood haven. Sarah greeted him with a warm, tired smile, though her eyes glistened with unshed tears. The smell of greasy fries and vanilla milkshakes was nostalgic, but it felt different now. The diner was half empty, and the flickering neon open sign seemed to echo the fading hopes of the community. "We're hanging in there," Sarah said lightly, but Jake knew it was more of a wish than a truth. Together, they surveyed the disrepair, and Sarah's love for the place burned brightly amidst the shadows of her struggle. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Jake decided to give back. He threw money at problems, trying to fix things, but old friends pushed back. "We don't need your charity, Jake. We need partnership. We're in this together." They were right. He was an outsider here, a man who had traded authenticity for affluence. The whispers of the diner and the community center threaded into his heart, igniting a spark he didn't know he needed. A reminiscence of a family project his father once led. That evening, standing outside the community center, he felt the essence of his past wash over him. A place of unity. A haven. But it too languished in unshed dreams. An idea formed when he glimpsed the worn-down building, the hope of a fundraiser that could revive the spirits of a community worn thin by hardship. But the community activists confronted him, questioning his motives with a fierce intensity. Their words cut like sharp wind, piercing through the protective barrier he'd built around his comfortable life. The encounter left him reeling. He was forced to confront the shadows of his choices and the values he'd neglected. Would it be enough to transform the community center, to see true change? As Jake gazed at the empty lot where laughter should have bloomed, a conflict stirred within him. Would he use his wealth to impose change? Or could he embrace the lessons hidden among his family's legacies? A time for reckoning was fast approaching. With his heart pounding and his future uncertain, Jake was left to ponder the ultimate question that lay before him: which road would he choose, the one back to his roots or the gilded path of solitude? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the community center's cracked facade, Jake felt a surge of determination. This neighborhood was not just a series of buildings, it was a tapestry of stories, woven together by laughter, tears, and shared experiences. He had almost forgotten how it felt to belong to something bigger than himself. The next day, armed with a new resolve, Jake returned to the diner. He found Sarah wiping down tables, her movements filled with a familiar rhythm that encapsulated both nostalgia and the weight of daily struggle. "Hey, Mom," he greeted, leaning against the counter. "What if we host a community event? A fundraiser for the center?" Her eyes lit up, but doubt creased her brow. "Jake, it's not that simple. The last place we held a gathering was barely attended. People here are tired. They've lost hope. Jake nodded, understanding the gravity of her words. But if we give them a reason to come together, to celebrate, maybe we can light that spark again. I'll even match the donations myself. His heart raced as the idea took root. People might see it as just another rich man's gimmick, she cautioned. Then let's show them it's more than that. It's about us, about community, he insisted, passion igniting his voice. From that moment, Jake threw himself into organizing the event, reconnecting with old friends who had once joined him in ways that felt like family. He went door to door, sharing his vision, slowly reigniting trust where it had once flickered and dimmed. Some shrugged him off, voices heavy with cynicism, but others, like his childhood friend Lisa, were cautiously optimistic. Count me in, but you'll have to do more than just host it. We need activities, live music, a real celebration of where we came from. She exclaimed, a spark of enthusiasm glinting in her eyes. As plans solidified, Jake saw glimmers of hope return to the community's faces. He felt excitement ripple through him, adrenaline rushing as the event date drew closer. On the day of the fundraiser, the weather was bright and warm, a perfect backdrop for what he hoped to accomplish. Banners hung overhead, and laughter filled the air as neighbors trickled in, some curious, others supportive. But as the crowd grew, a haunting realization sank in. His own insecurities resurfaced, shoving doubt back into his mind. What gave him the right to breathe life into this community? Would they accept him after years away? As he wandered through the crowd, catching snippets of conversation, he saw faces lighting up as they reunited, shared stories, and rekindled connections long lost. That he stood at the edge of an increasingly lively scene, heart heavy with trepidation. Taking a deep breath, he made his way to the stage, nervous energy thrumming in his veins. As he took the microphone in hand, silence enveloped the crowd. Thank you all for being here, he began, words tumbling forth. I know I've been gone a long time. But I'm home now. I want to help, to be part of something greater. There were murmurs, a mix of acceptance and skepticism rippling through. He felt vulnerable under their gaze, but the truth coursed through his veins, urging him on. What came next felt like a leap of faith. Would he be accepted back into the family he had long neglected? The warmth of reconciliation or the chill of rejection awaited him on the other side. Jake's palms gripped the microphone as he prepared to share a deep personal truth, one that would define this moment for all. Would it shatter his carefully built facade, or inspire those listening to see him for who he truly was? Just as he opened his mouth to delve deeper into his heartfelt confessions, a loud commotion erupted at the back of the crowd. All eyes turned, and his breath caught in his throat. What had he unknowingly opened the door to? The cacophony was like a shard of glass, slicing through the buzz of the event. Jake's heart raced as he turned, dread pooling in his stomach. A group had gathered near the back, faces lined with confusion and anger. He squinted, trying to make sense of the chaos. What is going on? He thought as whispers choked the air. Lisa broke through the crowd, her face flushed with worry. Jake, you need to come. There's an issue. Before he could respond, the murmur of voices grew louder. It was the sound of disbelief, frustration spilling over. He jogged towards the scene, propelled by the hope that whatever had disrupted the moment would be resolved quickly. He reached the front of the gathering, where a clash of emotions waxed and waned between familiar faces. An older man, Hank, stood with raised fists, his voice trembling. You think you can just waltz back into our lives, Jake? After abandoning us? After leaving? You don't know what we've been through. Stunned, Jake felt the air leave his lungs. The words hit him hard, stirring emotions he had tried to bury. I came back to help, he stammered, but the words felt weak against the storm brewing around him. We've been here holding everything together while you lived your dream. Hank continued, eyes blazing. I didn't forget about you. Jake shot back, desperation igniting his voice. I thought you'd be better off without me. Lisa stepped in, trying to mediate. Hank, this isn't the way. He's here to help. No. Hank interrupted. No one knows what we've gone through. No one understands. You don't just turn your back and expect forgiveness. Jake felt weightless, like he was swimming in a sea of his own guilt. Every moment he spent away from this community echoed like a haunting melody, a reminder of the disconnection he had once felt so comfortable in. The crowd surveyed him, eyes reflecting shame, betrayal, and a longing for what had been lost. A little boy at the front, clutching his mother's hand, stared at Jake with wide, innocent eyes. It was a haunting reminder of the child he once was, filled with dreams. I'm sorry. Jake's voice cracked under the pressure. I can't change the past, but I'm here now. I want to do better. I want to help rebuild what was lost. Please. Hank's expression softened slightly, though pain lingered in his gaze. Help? How can I trust you? Silence swallowed the space as Jake felt the weight of eyes searching for sincerity. He inhaled deeply, recalling the laughter that once enveloped this community and the feeling of belonging he desperately wanted to reclaim. Suddenly, he had an idea. Let us have an open forum, he suggested, glancing around. Let us talk. Let us share what you all have been through. I'll listen, and we can work together in ways that actually matter. The crowd murmured, curiosity mingling with apprehension. People need to know you care, Jake. Lisa encouraged, stepping closer. You have to show them you're not just talk. Jake nodded, his heart pounding in his chest as he met Hank's eyes once more. You all mean more to me than I can say. I want to hear your stories, your struggles, everything. No more walls. Just honesty. And together, I know we can move forward. Hank's anger flickered. Fine, he relented. But this better not be another empty promise. Jake felt the first sparks of potential course through the crowd. This was his chance. If he could bare his soul, maybe they would, too. He was willing to do whatever it took to bridge the gap he had created. As the tension hung in the air, a realization dawned. The moment of truth wasn't his confession. It was the moment to face their shared history together, with open hearts, but amid the heavy silence of expectation, a new noise broke through. A familiar, unexpected voice called from the far edge of the crowd. Jake? Is that really you? It was a voice from the past, one he hadn't heard in years. Who was it? What secrets did they bring back with them? Jake turned slowly toward the voice, his heart racing anew. It was as if the crowd around him had faded, replaced by a singular focus on the origin of that haunting sound. He squeezed his eyes shut for a heartbeat, willing himself to confront whatever was coming next, yet deep down he couldn't help but hope. There stood Sarah. Her brown hair glimmered under the gathering lights, and her usual bright smile was replaced by an expression that mirrored his own, a mix of surprise and uncertainty. Time hadn't taken away her warmth, but the years apart had hardened something between them, creating a chasm only silence had filled. Sarah. Jake breathed out, caught between hope and fear. Jake, she replied, stepping closer to him, her demeanor shifting from shock to something softer. I didn't think I'd ever see you again. Her voice, once a comforting melody to him, was now laced with something heavier, tinged with the pain of their shared past. Hank, still simmering with unresolved anger, crossed his arms, watching the interaction with the skepticism of a guardian. The crowd seemed to hold its collective breath, waiting to see what would unfold. What are you doing here? Jake asked, his voice lower yet tinged with desperate curiosity. I heard about the event, thought I'd stop by, she replied, her gaze darting around the circle before settling back on him. There was uncertainty hiding behind her eyes. I wanted to see how things were moving on. I wanted to know if you were really back. His heart sank. Did she think he wouldn't stay? He was here, wasn't he? I am back, he insisted, the words tumbling out, filled with the weight of his longing for acceptance. I want to fix things, to help this community. Do you? she asked sharply, planting her feet firmly on the ground. Or are you just trying to ease your own guilt? You made your choice, Jake. Her words pierced through him like the sharpest of arrows, hitting a raw nerve he hadn't expected to surface. I know I can't undo my past, he admitted, glancing back at the group before turning his gaze to Sarah. But I can't just run away again. I want to be part of this, of you. The crowd around them whispered, the tension thickening as everyone leaned in. Jake could feel their eyes shifting between him and Sarah, wondering if old connections could spark back to life or if this was yet another momentary lapse into disappointment. Talk about it, Lisa chimed in gently, sensing the emotional gravity in the air. Let us air everything out. We are all here now. Jake, you hurt a lot of people, Sarah said, her voice softer but still firm. You made promises you didn't keep. People lost faith in you. I know, he replied, feeling the sting of her words, but he pressed on. If you just give me a chance to show how much I care. I need you to trust that I can make it right. And just like that, the air shifted. A flicker of hope sparked in Jake's heart. Perhaps this was the moment where healing could start not just for him, but for Sarah and the entire community. But as Sarah opened her mouth to respond, the ground beneath them shuddered slightly. A low rumble could be felt, reverberating through the street, just enough to hush the crowd once more. Confusion swept through their faces, eyebrows raised with concern. Is that an earthquake? Hank shouted, glancing around to see if everyone was all right. Just then, a loud crash sounded from the far side of the venue, an ominous reminder that the past, and perhaps deeper troubles, were far from buried. Jake's heart dropped. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon as the group's attention shifted to the sound. What was happening? And would he be able to embrace this second chance with the shadows of the past closing in on them? At that moment, Jake realized that sometimes, the ground shakes before the real work begins, and he wondered if they would all stand together to face it. The crowd stirred, tension electrifying the air. Jake turned to Sarah, their previous argument momentarily forgotten as they both scanned the horizon. The distant crash echoed, mixed with the chatter of confused voices. Jake could feel the pulse of fear. People hadn't just come here for his return, they'd come hoping for stability, for a reason to believe again. Stay close, Jake urged Sarah, taking a tentative step forward. The crowd was breaking apart, people shifting numerous ways, unsure whether to flee or stay. But then he noticed the fire chief, a confident figure, striding toward them with purpose. We need to evacuate. He called out, his voice cutting through the noise. There's been some structural damage. Please follow the designated exits. Fear coursed through Jake as he turned back to Sarah. What about everyone? The community? She took a deep breath, her eyes flickering with the memories of what used to bind them together, a shared hope. We can help them, Sarah said, resolve filling her tone. But we need to move. Now. He nodded, feeling a strange pull both to her and the chaos around them. His heart was racing not just from fear but from a surge of determination. Let us rally everyone. We can't leave them. Jake, there's no time. She urged, her voice rising above the chaos. The building could collapse. That's exactly why they need us. He felt a spark ignite within, fueled by years lost, and every moment spent running from his past. I can't just stand here and let this happen again. Hank stepped closer, his expression a mix of anger and concern. You think you can fix everything just like that, huh? You can't save them all, Jake. You can't even save yourself. Maybe saving one person can change everything, Jake shot back, silencing the critic. Then let us start with the kids, Sarah said, suddenly focused, the urgency piercing through the chaos. They're over at the playground, we need to get them before she could finish. Another tremor rippled through the ground, forcing the crowd to stagger. Kids, laughing just a moment before, were now wide-eyed with fear. The atmosphere shifted, transforming the festive gathering into a scene of dread. Stay together. He shouted, gripping Sarah's arm as they pushed toward the playground, where laughter had turned to panic. He didn't care about the whispers or the worries of the townsfolk who had lost faith in him. He only knew that taking action, no matter how small, carried the potential to forge a new path. As they reached the playground, Jake saw the frightened faces. The children were huddled in a corner, some crying, some frozen in fear. His heart broke for them. They were innocent victims caught up in a turmoil that echoed his own past. "Hey! It's okay," he called out, crouching down to their level. "We're here to help. Just follow us, all right? We'll get you to safety." He extended a hand to a little girl, her eyes wide and questioning. Ignoring the tremors that still unsettled the ground, he forced a smile, channeling every ounce of calm he could muster. "You're safe with us." One by one, the kids began to trust him, stepping out from the shadows of their fear. He felt Sarah's hand slip into his, and for a moment, they stood shoulder to shoulder, united by purpose. The crowd outside surged with uncertainty, but he felt something shift within him. Maybe this was the redemption he sought. Not just for himself, but as part of something bigger. Yet just as victory seemed within reach, a loud rumble filled the air again, followed by a blinding flash in the sky. Jake's heart sank. It wasn't just the ground shaking anymore, it felt like the world was about to fracture. What was that? A child screeched, clinging tightly to Jake's shirt. As the echoes faded, Jake realized this could be the moment where everything came crashing down, or where hope could ignite a new beginning. He turned to Sarah, a mix of determination and fear coursing through him. We need to figure out what that was. But did they have the strength to confront whatever storm lay ahead? Would old wounds dictate their fate once more? The ground was shaking. And so was his heart. Jake's eyes darted around the playground, searching for the source of the chaos. The sound still rumbled in his ears, a low growl like a wild animal stirred awake. The kids huddled closer to him, their innocence wrapped tightly in fear. "Stay close to me," he shouted, trying to keep the panic from creeping into his voice. The moment seemed to stretch, each breath weighted with urgency. He turned to Sarah, catching her frantic gaze. "We need to lead them out now. No more waiting." "But where's the safest route?" she replied, glancing over her shoulder at the shifting crowd and uncertainty brewing behind them. Jake bit his lip, scanning the area for any signs of trouble. A building teetering too close, a group of terrified parents frantically searching for their kids. To the field behind the school, he decided, pointing toward the wide expanse that seemed more open, less threatening. "We just need to keep them calm." He felt a firm grip on his hand as Sarah squeezed it. "Let us move." Together, they called to the children, urging them to form a line. As the chaos simmered around them, Jake felt a strange familiarity in the act of gathering the kids around him. It was like leading a group of lost souls, bringing them back to safety, just as he once wished someone would do for him. "Follow us, everyone. You'll be okay," Jake shouted, trying to project strength even as his heart raced wildly in his chest. He pushed through, feeling the warmth of Sarah's presence beside him, but just as they began to make their way toward the field, another crack echoed above, louder this time. The sky lit up, a sharp flash of light blinding them for a moment. Jake stumbled back, instinctively protecting the kids as the ground shifted once more. People all around them let out terrified screams. The fear was palpable, a wave rolling through the crowd. The panic threatened to spiral out of control. Suddenly, a boy broke free from the line, darting towards his father, who was frantically searching for him in the crowd. "No!" Jake yelled, desperation slicing through him. "Get back!" But it was too late. The ground heaved beneath them, sending a shockwave of terror through the air. Jake watched helplessly as the boy stumbled, losing his balance and crashing to the ground. His father rushed forward, but the chaos was too thick. They were trapped. "Jake!" Sarah cried, her voice cutting through the turmoil. "We can't leave them." Jake's heart ached with the weight of their helplessness. I know. Just he barely managed to breath, we have to help. But as he looked at the faces of the kids around him, they were frozen in fear, waiting for him to lead them. He took a deep breath, feeling the responsibility settle on his shoulders like an anvil. Okay. We go together. We'll grab whoever we can and move. Rushing toward the boy, he reached him first, gripping his arm. I've got you. You're safe. The boy's wide eyes stared up at him, a mixture of confusion and fear. Jake pulled him close as his father finally reached them, relief flooding his features. But the ground shook again, more ferociously this time, causing the nearby structures to creak and crumble. Jake! Sarah's voice soared above the rest, and he noticed the other kids looking back, their faces pale. He turned from the father and son, hesitating for the briefest moment, then shouted, "Let us go. Everyone. Now." As they took the first steps towards the field, Jake felt the weight of his own fears mingling with the urgency of the moment. Behind them, the sound of chaos was relentless, but ahead, he could see a glimmer of hope amidst the uncertainty, and just as they reached the edge of safety, another blinding flare erupted in the sky, quieter yet more intense, pulling Jake's gaze up. "Jake!" Sarah shouted, her grip on him tightening. "What is happening?" The answer might change everything, but what did they really understand about the force behind the waves? Could they face it together? Would they be strong enough to weather the storm ahead? As the ground quaked once more, Jake's determination surged. He would find out what lay ahead, one step at a time. Would this be the moment that unravels everything they'd fought to hold together? The moment of truth lingered in the air like a heavy fog. Jake and Sarah barely managed to catch their breath as they pulled the children closer to the edge of the field. The wailing sirens in the distance blended with the rumbling beneath their feet, sending shivers through Jake's spine. "We need to keep moving," Jake urged, his voice strained but steady. He glanced at the kids, whose eyes mirrored the fear churning in his chest. "Look at me. Stay together." Sarah nodded, her eyes bright but vulnerable. She took charge of two younger kids, guiding them with a protectiveness that seemed to radiate from her. Jake admired her strength. In moments like this, they needed each other more than ever. With each step into the open space, the ground trembled like an angry beast beneath them. The once quiet playground felt like a distant illusion, replaced now with the reality of shattered glass and debris. The sky, once blue and inviting, had darkened, looming ominously above as if it too was part of the danger. "Jake, over there." Sarah pointed towards a cluster of children standing frozen near a swing set, their expressions vacant. "We can't leave them behind." Without hesitation, Jake darted that way, calling out, "Hey! You're safe. Come this way." The kids flinched at first, eyes wide and confused. But as he reached them, something shifted. A little girl with pigtails took a tentative step toward him, her small hand trembling. Jake dropped to one knee, meeting her gaze. "It's all right, I promise. We're going to get through this together." As she nodded slowly, another tremor rippled through the ground, stronger than before. Jake steadied himself, feeling the fear ripple through him once again. "Sarah! Hurry!" he shouted, panic edging into his tone. The crowd around them seemed to swell and fade like the tide, and he felt his heart race as he saw parents frantically searching. He couldn't let himself get lost in their chaos. Just then, a blast echoed overhead. Fireworks? It couldn't be a streak of flame lit the sky, but it wasn't celebratory. It was a warning. An airliner appeared through the clouds, trailing smoke as it struggled against whatever storm brewed above. "Everyone, we need to keep moving to the tree line," Jake yelled, his voice echoing against the panic surrounding them. He grabbed the little girl's hand, the grip of her tiny fingers grounding him. As they jogged toward the tree line, uncertainty lay heavily on his shoulders. Would they make it? The whispers of doubt wound their way into his mind, but then, as they reached the big oak trees, something miraculous happened. Kids began to grasp one another's hands, forming links as they moved in unison. The innocence of their bond cut through the chaos, bringing light amidst the overshadowing fear. "Look," Sarah said, catching his gaze. "They're sticking together." Jake smiled, feeling a spark of hope. It was a simple act but a powerful one. Unity, even in the face of fear, could cut through the darkest moments. Yet the ground shifted again, as if challenging their resolve. The kids pressed on, their eyes determined, each footstep a testament to their bravery. Jake's heart swelled with pride and gratitude. "We're almost there." As they reached the edge of the trees, another blinding flash erupted in the sky. This time, it wasn't just a flare, it was a vibrant cascade of colors mixed with smoke. "What is happening?" Jake murmured, a mix of awe and distress tightening in his chest. As they all turned to look, time seemed to suspend for a heartbeat, painting a picture of chaos and beauty intertwined. In that brief moment, a realization hit him like a wave. Whatever was happening above them was shaping their story in ways he couldn't yet understand. "Everyone, keep moving." Sarah pulled him back to reality, and they hurried forward, their focus sharpened by urgency. But doubts lingered. They were running toward safety, but would they truly escape this storm? Or was something larger waiting just beyond the trees? Jake knew they had to keep fighting, together. But what would they find when they crossed that threshold? Would they emerge stronger or be forever changed? The answers felt just out of reach, wrapped in the mystery of what lay ahead. As they rushed into the shelter of the trees, the air shifted around them. The thick foliage blocked out the sun, casting them into a shroud of dim light. The sounds of chaos were muffled, and for a moment, they were cocooned in a fragile calm. Jake took a deep breath, focusing on the soft sounds of the children lining up behind him, their little hearts still hammering with fear. "Is everyone okay?" he called out, turning to face the group. He saw wide eyes, faces flushed, and small nods that felt heavy with unspoken worries. "We're going to be safe here for now. Stay close, okay?" He noticed Sarah crouched down, comforting the little girl, whose name he learned was Lily. Her trembles began to subside as Sarah whispered soft words, her gentle tone calming the hectic atmosphere around them. Jake admired her tender spirit, the way she could find light in the darkest moments. This was a strength he hadn't fully appreciated until now, but just then, a loud crash echoed through the trees, shaking the ground slightly beneath their feet. Jake instinctively turned to look back toward the field, where more smoke billowed like angry dark clouds ready to unleash a storm. His heart raced again, and he felt a tight knot forming in his stomach. "Jake, we need to stay together," Sarah said, her voice steady but urgent. "I don't want to lose anyone." He nodded, and together they herded the kids deeper into the woods, finding a small clearing where the trees stood close together, offering some privacy from the chaos outside. It was here that Jake let out a sigh, a mixture of relief and worry. "Okay, listen up everyone," Jake said, crouching down to face the kids. Their eyes were filled with a mix of fear and hope, and he felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "I want everyone to take a moment to breathe. We're safe here. I promise we'll figure this out." The air around them shifted again, pregnant with anticipation. It was strange the quiet in the woods contrasted sharply with the turmoil just beyond their fragile sanctuary. And yet, as he looked at the faces before him, Jake recognized a strength that hadn't been there before. These kids were ready to stand together, no matter what. Suddenly, another distant explosion sound rumbled through the trees, closer this time. The earth quivered, and a few smaller droplets of dirt dislodged from the roots above them. "What was that?" whispered one of the boys, his eyes wide and frightened. Before Jake could respond, he noticed a flicker of movement in the corner of the clearing. A little boy named Tim, barely 7 years old, tugged at his sleeve. "Are we gonna die?" Tim's voice quivered, raw with innocence and fear. Jake's heart ached. He knelt down to meet Tim's eyes. "No," he replied, trying to sound more certain than he felt. "We're going to get through this." We're strong. But even as he spoke, doubt crept into his own mind. What if they were not safe? What if they didn't make it out? Across the clearing, Sarah caught his gaze, her eyes shining with an unspoken promise of solidarity. They were in this together, no matter what. As the rumbling continued, a new thought sparked in Jake's mind. The connection between them all was more than just survival. They were woven together by fate, facing the tumult with courage born not just from fear but from love. "Okay, I need everyone to listen," Jake called, raising his voice to cut through the tension. "We're going to make a plan. That takes teamwork. Together, we take one step at a time. Can you all do that?" A chorus of tiny voices responded, filled with newfound determination. Yes. Yet, even in that moment of unity, a question loomed larger than all of them. What lay ahead was still uncertain, and the storm they faced was not yet over. As they lined up, Jake felt a shiver run down his spine, not just from fear, but from a gripping sense of purpose. Would they find hope beyond the fears looming over them? Or was the true storm just beginning, ready to test their very bonds? Jake stood tall, his heart steadying as he drew courage from the little faces around him. The children were tentative but unwavering, their resolve hardening in the face of uncertainty. He sensed that their collective strength was budding, like the first blooms of spring pushing through the frost, but as he glanced toward the tree line, the echoes of explosions filled the air again, a reminder that their sanctuary was fragile. "Okay, listen. We need to find a way to stay ahead of whatever's happening out there," he urged, his voice low and firm. "Can anyone think of a good place to hide, or maybe a way to signal for help?" Lily, cradled in Sarah's arms, raised her small finger. "What about the big rock? The one by the creek? It's tall, and we can see far from there." Jake's heart soared at her suggestion. "Great idea, Lily. If we can make it there, we might be able to spot anyone coming towards us." He turned to the group, "Who thinks they can help us climb to the rock?" Hands shot up, children's eyes sparking with purpose. This was a different kind of energy, a defiance against the fear that had taken hold of them just moments before. Jake felt the tension in his chest start to ease, a sliver of hope slicing through the chaos around them. "All right, let us move together. We need to stay close, and we'll stick to the trees for cover." As they carefully ventured through the underbrush, Jake's mind raced with thoughts of how this had all turned upside down. They were no longer just a group of children caught in a storm. They were teammates, and for the first time, he could see their spirit glimmering above the fear. Lily walked beside him, gripping tightly to Sarah's hand. "Do you think we will ever go back home?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Jake took a moment before answering. "Yes, but home will look different, and we're all going to be part of making it new." He realized he was speaking not just to reassure her but to convince himself too. A crunch in the leaves made everyone freeze. A deer, startled by their movement, bounded away through the trees. The children exhaled, laughter bubbling up as they released their pent-up tension. Jake smiled. These little moments mattered, and he knew they were key to keeping hope alive. The journey to the creek felt like both an eternity and a fleeting moment. Each step they took brought them closer together, bonds forging amid the chaos. The world beyond the trees seemed increasingly distant, and perhaps that was a good thing. Finally, they reached the boulder by the water. Jake looked at it, believing it would serve as a lookout. They quickly climbed up, filling every crevice above the water's edge. They perched like birds on a branch, squinting through the mix of sunlight and shadow to see anything out of the ordinary. "Look!" shouted Tim, pointing across the far side of the creek, where the smoke still roiled high into the sky. But as Jake's gaze followed the boy's finger, a heavy weight settled in his gut. "That smoke isn't just an accident," he murmured, more to himself than anyone else. The reality of their situation began to settle heavily on his shoulders again. Just then, they heard another sound, a mechanical noise, loud and churning, a stark contrast to the natural beauty surrounding them. "What's that?" whispered Sarah, her eyes wide. Jake turned, scanning the horizon, his heart racing once more. The children huddled closer together, sensing the rising tide of danger. What was coming for them? Would the darkness they escaped from truly catch up, or was there a chance at finding safety against the unimaginable odds? Jake steeled his resolve just as he felt Sarah's hand brush against his. They were all in this together. Whatever was coming, they would face it side by side. But in the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the creeping sense of urgency. What if they didn't make it out this time? As the noise grew closer, a shadowed figure emerged in the distance. Jake's heart dropped as he tried to make sense of who or what it was. Hope flickered while fear clawed at his insides. All they could do now was hold on together. Whatever came next would test everything they had forged in this whirlwind of chaos. What lay ahead could change everything. Would they survive the waiting, the unknown? As the shadowed figure grew clearer, Jake's heart hammered in his chest. Was it danger or salvation? He felt the children's uncertainty ripple through their small bodies, an echo of his own anxious thoughts. Everyone, stay alert, he instructed, more to steady himself than for them. The way they clung to each other was a testament to their newfound bravery, but deep down, he sensed the melting fear. The figure stepped into the light, and Jake let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. It was Officer Rivera, the town's trusted police chief, who had often dropped into the diner for a coffee with Sarah, his demeanor warm and reassuring. "Jake. Kids. We've been looking for you," she shouted, relieved. "We need to get you all to safety. There's been an explosion nearby, and we're evacuating everyone." Jake felt a rush of gratitude mixed with urgency. "We can't leave yet. There are still kids. We need to make sure everyone is accounted for." Officer Rivera nodded, determination flickering in her eyes. "You're right. Let us get a head count." The children looked to Jake, eager to help, their anxiety melded with a newfound sense of purpose. Jake felt his own fear morph into something more powerful: action. "All right, everyone. I need you to stay together and listen to Officer Rivera. We'll take stock of who's here." He turned to her. "How many kids are still unaccounted for?" With swift coordination, they began to check names against the tight-knit group. They counted Lily, Tim, and the others surged with excitement as they realized they were together, safe and sound against the backdrop of chaos. But then, a heavy knot settled in Jake's gut. What about others? Are there kids near the playground door? There's not much time. Officer Rivera said, urgency in her voice. But I can send a message out to the emergency responders. We might still have time. Jake nodded, his heart racing as he turned to the kids. Listen, we need to stay together, all right? We have to rely on one another. His familiar grounding sense of community surged back, overwhelming the previous doubts he had felt. As they gathered into a tighter circle, Jake met Sarah's steady gaze. It's now or never. We may need to check on the playground and find the stragglers. They shouldn't be alone now. A collective agreement filled the air, eyes brightening with resolve. Let us do it, shouted Tim, his small voice ignited with bravery. Jake felt a wave of gratitude wash over him. Okay. Let us move. As they burst from the cover of the trees, laughter mingled with uncertain shouts filled their ears. The chaos from before felt surreal now, as if it belonged to another world. They raced back toward the playground, a mix of fear and hope fueling their every step. When they reached the playground, the scene wasn't nearly as chaotic as before, but shadows loomed over muddled memories. The laughter felt lost, overshadowed by the gravity of their situation. Parents had begun to gather, scanning the area. When they spotted the kids, relief flooded their faces. There they are. A mother cried, rushing toward them and enveloping Tim in a tight embrace. At that moment, Jake saw the connections, their little group merging with those once fractured ties. It felt good to witness their community rally, the warmth of shared experiences knitting them even closer. Where are the others? Jake asked, the urgency still present as they searched for any kids left behind. Down in the field, they were just playing, a panicked parent explained. Jake turned to Sarah, their eyes locking in shared determination. "I'll go to them. You stay with the others." "No, I'm with you," she asserted, her voice clear and steady. Together. They moved swiftly, adrenaline surging through them as they headed toward where the sun welcomed them back, a brighter horizon threatening to break through the clouded chaos. As they approached the field, they could see children grouped together, playing, oblivious to the gravity of the situation. Jake felt hope blossom in his chest. "Hey! Everybody!" he shouted, urgency lacing his voice. "We need to get to safety." Confusion flickered among the children, yet a few recognized him, and they began to direct the others to join them. "Let us go," Sarah encouraged, her determination fueling the kids, creating energy that propelled them forward. Finally, the last child, little Anna, who had been playing on the swings, looked up from her laughter, and in that moment, everything slowed down. They locked eyes, her innocence shining through the chaos, and Jake knew he had to protect that light. "Anna!" he called, and she turned, no longer oblivious, her face reflecting uncertainty. With a small wave of reassurance, he sprinted toward her, reaching out. "Come on, sweetie. It's not safe here anymore." With her hand in his, they reached the others, a wall of guarding bodies surrounding the children like a shield. They turned back only for a moment to see the sun bathing them in warmth. Hope surged within Jake. They moved past the shadows of uncertainty as a new understanding washed over him. "This is our community," he thought, feeling their hearts beating together. He had been lost before, but he was here now, he was home. As they regrouped with Officer Rivera and the others, each child accounted for, breathing with relief filled the air like a soft breeze, fragile, but full of promise. He turned to Sarah, a soft smile breaking through. "We did it together," she replied, her eyes reflecting a world of understanding. In that moment, Jake finally understood. This wasn't merely about his return. It was about the community getting back on its feet, supporting each other through every challenge. He realized that love and courage could ignite change even amid the fiercest storms, and as they held tight to one another, he couldn't help but believe in their collective strength, the very heart of their community. They would rebuild. From the ashes and the chaos, they would rise together. A bond forged in resilience. As the sun broke through the clouds, bathing them all in golden light, Jake faced the future, not afraid of what lay ahead, ready to embrace it, one beautiful step at a time. Now, let us connect. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories like this. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. And comment your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. Only true fans know how important it is to help keep this community thriving.